Well, here we are. We're finally coming to the end of the new Doctor Who season on Disney Plus. The first of what could be an epic finale with the Legend of Ruby Sunday. And everybody's question going into this episode is, who was Susan Twist? And yes, we managed to get that answer, I guess, and more. And what I think is a very interesting episode overall. I think when you look back at this episode, it'll be one that really delivered, I think, on a great kind of cliffhanger and story of the whole season. Seeing Susan Twist throughout this season and seeing the Doctor recognize her and becoming a big point in contention and going to Unit to figure out who exactly this person is, I think worked very well. And part of me, though, wishes we got more episodes of the season because they showed a couple different variants of Susan Twist that feels like we're in different encounters with Ruby and the Doctor. And seeing those quick pictures feel makes you realize that like these two are traveling together. But it would be nice to see those episodes where they would have seen them, see what the adventures are for Ruby and the Doctor of these interesting images. I want to see where they saw Susan Twist here. I feel kind of left out that we didn't see them. But nonetheless, we're in Unit and we have a full cast of characters. We have a new science officer. We have kind of that space alien robot, and we get Rose back, Donna's daughter, in this episode, as well as a very great performance for the actress who plays Kate Lethbridge Stewart. Kate Stewart was amazing this episode as Unit. You got the sense of care in her officers and wanting to make sure they stayed healthy and and safe. And overall, a great mystery throughout as we both tackle who is Susan Twist, but also what who is Ruby's mother and what is the legend of Ruby Sunday? Why is this kind of birthday that she had when she was left at the Church of Ruby Road so important? And there's so much details going in there. And I think this episode handled that out pretty well. First off, let's talk about how I felt they handled the twist of the season. When we get into the episode, we see them being called Susan Triad, and everybody is talking about how obvious it is that S Triad is a pseudonym for TARDIS, and how the letters are there, and obviously the Doctor's granddaughter, that line left in the Devil's Cord, being named Susan, makes the Doctor think that Susan Triad may be a version of his daughter Susan, his granddaughter Susan, that he had left from the era of the first Doctor, and it leads so much misdirection with everything. There's the great moments where we're going into the time window where Doctor and the Ruby are trying to see who Ruby's mother is to see if there's an answer to that. And I love how even then it's very clear that Ruby's mother is kind of supposed to be hidden for some things, that she's glitching throughout. You don't get a clear shot of her face. She points back at the TARDIS. And I love how the mystery of what is going on with the TARDIS has been laid. I think everybody's been focused on Ruby and everybody's been focused on the fact that Susan Twist keeps showing up, that not enough people pay attention that the TARDIS has been making some weird noises throughout. And even though new Doctor Who Twitter put out a clip of that, I think nobody has noticed that throughout the season. And the fact that it was noticed here and became a very important part of this twist works so good, because you can even think back, it was kind of making bad noises all the way back to the Devil's Cord where we first met Susan Twist. Why do I think this is? Well, because Susan Twist or Susan Triad ended up being either a pawn of Suketh or Sutek. And the reveal of that happening was just very well done, because it was taking all the obvious answers that we all saw out in front of us, with maybe Susan, being the Susan Twist character, with TARDIS being in the Triad company, To be able to put things out so obviously for the Doctor, but hiding the actual villain in plain sight, the God of Death. Excellent writing by Russell T Davies, and I think the twist in the moment where the Doctor realizes he's made a mistake worked very, very well. I don't know how we're going to wrap up this finale. Seeing the excitement of him putting Ruby back into the time, window, and maybe she's going to get a glimpse of her mother. Maybe we're going to see who her mother is, worked very well for me. I thought the performance by Judy Gatwa and his kind of connection with both Kate Stewart and Mel worked very well at giving his character out more. I think the biggest criticism I could have is the fact that we didn't build enough of the Ruby and Doctor storyline and story arc throughout the season, and it kind of feels like the season was placed out of order per se. We got a lot of Doctor Light episodes in the middle, and it didn't feel like this whole twist was built up as obviously as it could have been. I would have loved to see another episode or two where this becomes a bigger deal, and now we know why the Doctor comes back. It really feels like there's an episode missing here where the Doctor and Ruby would have seen Susan Twist pop up one more time, and they're like, no, we need to go and do that. And maybe that would have been a good cold opening for this episode where they're on an adventure, they see Susan Twist, and they go, nope, cut it out. We're going back in the TARDIS, and we're going to get the answer for this in unit in present day, at least at Ruby's present day. And I think that would have made this episode a lot better. The other big shout out I will have is Mrs. Flood is in here again, and she knew who was coming, and I almost wonder if she could see Suketh in the church on Ruby Road whenever she was like, "Have you ever seen a TARDIS before?" She looks at the camera and says, he waits no more," or something like that. She very clearly is an important character to this Doctor Who world. I don't know if we'll get the answer to who Mrs. Flood is next episode. I definitely think she's a Time Lord because the Doctor talked about how his face helps him hide, and she made a comment that she constantly is hiding right now. So I do think that Mrs. Flood is a Time Lord and will be somebody that eventually, whether it's the end of this season or moving on, she's going to be a very important character for Doctor Who. As for who is going to be Ruby's mom, I don't know, but I do think we're going to get that answer next episode. And I do think we're going to find an interesting way to end this season overall. I worry that we may lose some people, maybe a Mel, maybe even a Kate Stewart, maybe some more people at Unit. Who knows? But overall, I have to say, this episode, The Legend of Ruby Sunday, I'm going to give it a